Tech.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on November the 18th in the year of our Lord 2025. And as usual, I got a lot of great information for you. Let me jump over here. Murtech on Rumble. Share this page, and we're on episode 1750. Let's go ahead and jump into that. Rumble. Close out the live chat here and slide down and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. Okay, we have information from Awaken with JP, Dr. Steve Turley, Rubin Report, and X22 Report. But before we get into that, let me give some shout outs here to Birdie Blue 01 just started following my channel. Nas3 just started following my channel. Ricky JJ just started following my channel. Samantha Emily just started following my channel. Dale Vinson just started following my channel, and Lucky Thunder just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1749. Debbie BS commented on my extra 534A, 534B, and 534C. So thank you, Debbie BS, for your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. So let me give this a thumbs up. Boom. There we go. And incidentally, I do have one of those thumbs up icons right here just below this video. So if you don't mind, if you could slide down and give me a thumbs up, that would be fantastic. All right. Awaken with JP. The evil is laughable, obvious. BBC's big lie about Trump. Okay, well, let's take a listen and see what that's all about.
I've just got this in. This is just breaking news, Emma, which relates to this story. We're just hearing that the BBC has apologized to Donald Trump.
Well, the BBC apologizes to President Trump. All is forgiven. Not in my book. To me, it is laughable how obviously evil the BBC and news in general is. Case in point, look at this.
Now, a transgender woman's milk is just as good for babies as breast milk.
Laughably evil. We'll get into all this. Welcome back to the JP Reacts channel, my freedom-loving friend. This is where we help spread the light of truth and freedom because truth conquers. You know who else tries to conquer truth, actually, instead of letting truth do the conquering? The news. And the BBC is certainly near the top of the list. Seems as though it's a little bit of a propaganda outlet of the New World Order. That's fun. Globalists, they're good. So there is a little bit of a precedent that's just been set. The BBC has apologized to President Trump. The BBC, in their own words, made a mistake. And I'll show you it was not a mistake. This is just intentional. Their apology means absolutely nothing. And I think one of the purest things that evil does is try to eliminate truth. And if you look at the BBC, you'll look at cable news, it is pure evil. They're simply trying to eliminate truth and shape people's minds to see what their puppet masters want them to see. That, ladies and gentlemen, is pure evil. Make no mistake about it. Yes, they're not out there directly taking lives, which would, of course, be a more dramatic expression of evil. But nonetheless, it is evil to consistently and deliberately try to destroy truth and manipulate people's minds to not see truth. And President Trump doesn't seem to go along with it. Especially when they involve him. And boy, have they ever. So I'll show you the clip that BBC released, and you'll just see how laughably obvious it is. Their deceptive tactics that now in their apology, they call a mistake. By the way, their apology is not an apology, even though it's cool they issued an apology, but it's meaningless because their apology translated simply said, we don't want to pay President Trump $1 billion in a court settlement. And of course, the BBC wants to save face, whatever face they have left to save. And like, we made a mistake, so we're going to issue an apology. And boy, what a clumsy mistake we made because we want to remain credible in the eyes of people, the few people that still see them as credible. That's all they're doing. They're just lying about how they lied so they can try to stay relevant, so they can more effectively express evil. So the context of this, you've probably heard about it, but it's fascinating. We'll just go through it. The BBC released a program recently with an incredibly deceptive edit of President Trump on January 6, 2021. Ever hear of it? And the edit appears to make President Trump calling for an insurrection. So I'll show you the quick clip of the BBC's edit compared to the original actual clip. Then we'll throw the BBC under the bus a little further because they're evil. It's obvious, and they deserve to be under the bus. And they deserve to have the bus pull forward over them, pull backward, reverse, and just kind of grind them down into the nothingness that they actually are. So, first clip, the BBC's deceptive rendition of President Trump calling for an insurrection.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell.
Boy, that kind of does sound like he's calling for an insurrection. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to fight. Yeah, I would admit that sounds like President Trump's calling for an insurrection. Problem is, he wasn't. Those weren't his words in unison. We're going to fight. We're going to fight like hell. That was, you'll see in a second, that was recorded about an hour after his first sentence. So here's a quick clip of the original thing President Trump said. See if you can spot a difference. See if there's a difference in the meaning.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Wow, cheer on our brave congressmen and women. Cheer on. That seems a little different than we're going to fight. Once we're going to go there, we're going to fight. So that second clip, that's what's called truth. The first clip, that's what's called evil. It's meant to destroy the actual truth of that second clip. As in, President Trump didn't call for an insurrection. This is the BBC. Why would they care about American politics? Well, globalists are kind of like global people. So American politics is part of the pie. It's a big part of the pie. That's maybe why the BBC cares. So let's get the breakdown a little bit more with a little more nuance, because it just makes the BBC's evil even more obvious. So much so you have to laugh at it while you protect against it.
Because tonight the BBC is facing serious questions over its credibility after the Daily Telegraph exposed a panorama segment that heavily doctored a speech by the American president in 2021, hours before the infamous January the 6th Capitol riot. As you're about to hear, the corporation spliced together two quotes 1 hour apart to make it seem like he encouraged an insurrection.
And after this, we'll see the BBC's meaningless apology. It's great. We'll get back to the video in just a second, but first I want to tell you about CNUS. It gets real deep for crap.
In fact, say this at all. The BBC spliced together two clips that took place 54 minutes apart. So let's go through it again.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you.
Now, see there, between Capitol and, that's a cut. Here's what Trump actually said.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
It's different. It wasn't until nearly an hour later that he then said the second part of the BBC's version.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we fight. We fight like hell.
That is damning stuff.
Damning stuff indeed. And of course, the BBC wants to pretend, well, we made a mistake. We never try to deceive people. Yeah, that's our sole purpose. But yeah, we never try to do that. Here's a clip of a BBC reporter pretending to be on the front lines in Ukraine under heavy Russian fire. Inconveniently, there's a Ukrainian woman out walking her dog that checks on him to see if he's okay.
Amount of incoming fire coming into this now.
Incoming
artillery
fire.
There are loads of civilians around. Families coming out. There's a lady there with her dog following on. This is the edge of the town that the Russians have got.
Also, they probably should have edited in some gunfire sound effects. So the lady comes up, checks on him. Are you okay? Why are you laying down? We'll get to the BBC's laughable apology in a second, but of course, this all comes out about the BBC as it relates to President Trump, because there was an internal memo leaked in the BBC that said to the effect, we probably shouldn't lie, this obviously. So that was leaked, and the BBC probably doesn't want you to know that they had people inside asking them to stop lying. That's rather inconvenient, but it came out, it was leaked. And two heads of the BBC had to resign in shame. And of course, that's just a ceremonial ritual of like, we got heads rolling. Look, they had to resign. So this is their fault. They're gone. Therefore, we're not tarnished because the tarnishes are no longer part of our organization. Look at those two heads of the BBC. They're gone. No, that's just a ceremonial ritual. Yeah, we sacrifice someone so that we can try to save face. So what else was leaked in the internal memo? That's a good question. Mr. Prescott raised questions about several other elements of the BBC News output. He claimed its reporting of trans issues was effectively censored by its specialist LGBT reporters who promoted a trans agenda. So in other words, they're not so much doing journalism, they're doing trans propaganda, promoting a trans agenda. I was told that time and time again that LGBTQ desk staffers would decline to cover any story raising difficult questions about the trans debate, the memo said. What? The BBC was promoting a trans agenda without true journalism covering both sides? That's hard to believe when you take a look at this clip. Once again.
Now, a transgender woman's milk is just as good for babies as breast milk.
Yeah, I would imagine milk that a man produces is just as good for babies as women's breast milk. Got it, BBC. Yeah, you don't have a consistent track record of being deceptive and evil and doing it so obviously. So yes, of course, BBC, I believe this was a one-time incident, a heavy mistake. Other troubling matters were raised. Mr. Prescott said the BBC's coverage of the 2024 U.S. election was more critical of Trump than of his opponent, Kamala Harris. Thank you, Mr. Obvious. He said the BBC published ill-researched material that suggested issues of racism when there were none, including a now removed BBC verified story about car insurance. I love car insurance racist scandals, by the way. There was a selection bias against sending stories up about migration and asylum seekers to BBC News app users as push notifications. Yeah, no kidding. BBC and UK, which is now a Muslim country, that's shocking to find out. There would have been a selection bias in those stories. His other criticisms include misrepresenting the percentage of Palestinian women and children who have been killed by Israel's military in Gaza, and misrepresenting the likelihood of children starving under Israel's aid blockade. So the BBC, their apology on BBC.com. The BBC has apologized to U.S. President Trump for a Paranorma episode that spliced parts of his January 6, 2021 speech together, but rejected his demands for compensation. The corporation said that it had given the mistaken impression that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action and said it would not show the 2024 program again. Yeah, that's great. It gave the mistaken impression. Let me tell you something about editing. I've published, I'm sure, well over 1,000 videos in my time. Editing is a very deliberate process, especially when you cut out 54 minutes of footage. First sentence, cool, we're going to walk down to the Capitol. cut out 54 minutes of footage, then let's splice that sentence in with the first sentence. That's very deliberate. Like editing a video, it's not throwing spaghetti at a wall. It's not abstract art. It's very deliberate. So I love the BBC. Their evil is obvious while they're trying to cover up their obvious evil. The mistaken impression. No, not for a minute would I believe that. You did that very deliberately, BBC. And we go on. We accept that our edit unintentionally created the impression, very unintentionally, that we were showing a single continuous section of speech rather than excerpts from different points in the speech, and that this gave the mistaken impression, once again, that President Trump had made a direct call for violent action, the statement said. It literally laughable. It is so laughable. This is just PR deception. There is no authenticity in this apology. So in other words, the BBC has not apologized. They simply issued a propaganda statement explaining their propaganda. And the problem is they made their original propaganda about a guy who sometimes will do something about it. President Trump said, yeah, I'm going to sue you for $1 billion for defamation. They're like, well, we don't want to pay you $1 billion. Well, we want to destroy you, but we don't want to pay you $1 billion. What do we have? President Trump gives them an ultimatum, issue a retraction, and apologize. So they do a ceremonial apology, an optical apology, not a real apology. Why isn't it real? Because it is just full of lies. Unintentional edit, mistaken. Yeah, it's not honest. Translated, their apology says, please don't sue us, President Trump. That's all it's saying. So with that, while this is about the BBC, it is truly about cable news in general. If you ever need a reminder that it is pure evil, out to deceive and influence your mind to see the world, events, and issues a certain way, let this be your reminder. Cable news, it is not journalism. It is deception masquerading as journalism. I wish that wasn't true. However, it's unfortunately true. That's what I think about this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and I'll look forward to seeing you on our next video. But
okay, there you have it. Now, I played that whole thing just for those last few sentences that he said. BBC, I know it's in England, Great Britain, but they're all the same. They're all the same. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Awaken with JP. I'm following his channel, giving him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Alrighty, let's jump back here and see what Dr. Steve Turley says. Bombshell, 20 CIA and FBI agents just flipped. Okay. Well, that sounds interesting. Let's see what that's all about.
And what's inside changes everything. They told you it was a conspiracy theory. They called you crazy for even asking the question. For nearly a decade, the legacy media, big tech, and Washington insiders buried the story, mocked anyone who dared to dig deeper, and dismissed Obamagate as right-wing fantasy. And now, 20 CIA and FBI whistleblowers are singing, and it's sending shockwaves through the DC swamp like never before. Hey gang, it's me, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you make sense of the madness as the far left desperately tries to stop the unstoppable rise of a new conservative age that you're making happen all over the world. So if you want a front row seat on how you continue to change the world in ways you never even imagined, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We knew that when Trump nominated Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence, she would take the deep state head on, and she has not disappointed. Last summer, Tulsi declassified a bombshell House Intelligence Committee report. It's been locked away in a CIA vault since September of 2020. And what it revealed is absolutely nothing short of explosive. The Russian collusion hoax wasn't a legitimate investigation that went sideways. It was from the very beginning manufactured from the top down, and it was directed by none other than President Barack Hussein Obama himself. Here's what we now know. After Donald Trump shocked the world by defeating Hillary Clinton in November 2016, which we predicted he would on this channel, President Obama wasn't satisfied with his own intelligence community's reporting. The official assessments from every single intelligence agency, the FBI, the CIA, NSA, Homeland Security, every single intelligence agency together concluded that Russia had neither the intent nor the capability to hack the United States election. That's exactly what was presented to President Obama in December of 2016, just a few weeks after Trump crushed Hillary on November the 8th. But then something unprecedented happened. Just weeks before Obama was set to leave office after Trump had already won, he ordered, again, this is Obama, he ordered a coordinated effort to manufacture intelligence concluding the exact opposite of what every single intelligence agency concluded. On December 9th, just days after receiving that intelligence report exonerating Russia from election interference, Barack Obama held a meeting in the Situation Room in the White House with FBI Director James Comey and Andrew McCabe, the Deputy FBI Director, CIA Director John Brennan, James Clapper, who was then the Director of National Intelligence, John Kerry, the Secretary of State, and National Security Advisor Susan Rice. And in that room, they together with Obama made a decision that would poison American politics for years. Here is Tulsi Gabbard.
We look at where we are now. Over the last several weeks, we've declassified and released documents that exposed how President Obama and leaders in the intelligence community knowingly manufactured a false intelligence document after the 2016 election was done, after the American people said, no, we want Donald Trump to go and be our commander-in-chief, not Hillary Clinton. And this manufactured document alleged that Russia aspired to help President Trump win the election with the aim of undermining his presidency and usurping the will and the voices of the American people who sent Trump to the White House.
So they decided to manufacture fake intelligence that directly contradicted their own intelligence experts. So obviously this wasn't just spin. This was the systematic creation of false intelligence designed to delegitimize a duly elected president. And what's so key here is this goes way beyond partisan politics. It doesn't matter whether this was a Democrat administration or Republican administration. What Tulsi is exposing here represents a fundamental attack on the democratic process itself. When intelligence agencies go rogue, in effect, and manufacture evidence to undermine a duly elected president at the behest of the outgoing president, we're not talking politics as usual anymore, gang. We're talking about a constitutional crisis. Or Tulsi's words, we're talking about treason. That's the word she used. This was treasonous behavior on the part of all those involved. Now, the Obama-directed intelligence community assessment made 4 central claims that became the foundation for years of investigations, impeachment efforts, and the Mueller witch hunt. 1, Vladimir Putin wanted Donald Trump to win. 2, Putin took direct action to help Trump win. 3, the Russians had blackmail material on Trump, the infamous Steele dossier, the bought and paid for op research from the Clinton campaign that had all those fabricated, salacious details about Trump that Putin was supposedly using to manipulate him. And 4, the Russians colluded with the Trump campaign. Every single one of those allegations wasn't just false. They were all fabricated. They were frauds. They were all intentionally manufactured to sabotage Trump's presidency. There was no verifiable intelligence to support any of them. And now it looks like more and more CIA and FBI agents are beginning to sing. Wait until you see this. But if there is a lesson for all of us in this, it's that the radical left and the deep state will stop at nothing to hold on to and protect their own power over our nation's institutions. And one
Okay, he's actually going into a commercial here, so let me go ahead and skip past that.
There's an meaningful growth, but 200 piece of IRA. Turley talked to you during the interview to secure your future today. We're now getting reports that as many as 20 FBI and CIA agents were interviewed during the investigation into the origins of the Russian collusion narrative, and they were indeed singing. In fact, we're getting reports that there were over 70 witnesses total interviewed, over 300,000 documents produced, 2,000 classified source documents for the intelligence community assessment, 230 hours of testimony. And these agents are reportedly key insiders in terms of both rank and file and high-level officials who have reportedly blown the whistle, provided testimony, and pointed the finger directly at the Obama administration regarding the manipulation of the intelligence assessment used to frame the Russian investigation. And this is all coming to a head in a federal grand jury that's been officially impaneled to begin meeting just weeks from now in January in Fort Pierce. That's in the Southern District of Florida. And this grand jury will investigate everything involved in this, what is technically known as Crossfire Hurricane operation, and the potential criminal conspiracy charges against everyone involved in it, starting at the top. Now, what's so fascinating is that Pam Bondi appears to be taking full advantage of the fact that conspiracies are trans-jurisdictional. Constitutionally, conspiracy charges can be tried anywhere, like crimes involving money wiring. And we're being told that this grand jury is considering evidence that's, again, going all the way to the top to Obama himself. It's just been announced that Kash Patel has dropped over 30 subpoenas hitting the desks of people who once thought they were absolutely untouchable. So we're talking former CIA Director John Brennan, who led the agency during the Obama administration when the Russia investigation began, the utterly smug Peter Strzok, the former FBI Deputy Assistant Director of Counterintelligence, who helped open the FBI's Crossfire Hurricane probe into Trump-Russia connections. Lisa Page, former FBI attorney, whose text messages with Strzok revealed just how radically anti-Trump sentiment ran rampant throughout the agency back in 2016. James Clapper, former director of national intelligence, and approximately 26 other officials connected to the 2017 ICA, that's the Intelligence Community Assessment, that was intentionally altered and fabricated to make it look as if Trump and Russia colluded to interfere in the 2016 election. Federal prosecutors are now investigating whether Obama-era officials manipulated intelligence for political purposes. You know, for years, Democrats told us that no one is above the law as they indicted Trump on charges that have crumbled in court. Well, they set the rules. And if the evidence proves that a sitting president engineered an intelligence operation to delegitimize his successor and subvert the will of over 63 million American voters, then Barack Obama, John Brennan, James Comey, and everyone involved need to face the consequences. The dam is breaking. Justice may finally be coming. And this time, it's backed by the receipts.
All right, there you have it. And let me go ahead and click over here and show you that this video does come from Dr. Steve Turley. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, have you noticed a theme here in this podcast about how we are continually being lied to? It's amazing, isn't it? It's absolutely amazing how they just make stuff up, pull it out of their butt, throw it against the wall, and hope it sticks. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they do. It does stick. They believe it. They believe these lies. All right, Rubin Report. Listen to press go quiet as Borders Czar Tom Holman gives brutal response to reporter's question. Okay, let's check this out.
I'm a lifelong Catholic. I'm saying it as not only a Borders, I'll say it as a Catholic.
This is a super interesting story. because as Trump has gained control of the border, the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops got together and they are now critiquing what Trump is doing, again, by just defending the sovereign borders of the United States. Take a look.
As pastors, we, the bishops of the United States, are bound to our people by ties of communion and compassion in our Lord Jesus Christ. And we are disturbed when we see among our people a climate of fear and anxiety around questions of profiling and immigration enforcement.
We are saddened by the state of contemporary debate and the vilification of immigrants. We are concerned about the conditions in detention centers and the lack of access to pastoral care.
We lament that some immigrants in the United States have arbitrarily lost their legal status. We are troubled by threats against the sanctity of houses of worship and the special nature of hospitals and schools.
All right. So first off, let me say I'm not Catholic, obviously, so it's not really for me to say the sort of the spiritual critique is maybe not where I'm going to go with this for a moment. But I'm happy to have a Catholic bishop on, or someone that wants to defend some of this from a more religious perspective. But what right do you guys think you actually have to tell the President of the United States how to defend this country? Connor, could you pull up the image of here's the giant wall that is around Vatican City, which is technically its own country. And I'm fairly certain it would be very hard to scale that wall, and that wall is more protected than virtually any wall that we have around this country. But why is it that you guys don't want everyone to come into Vatican City, right? I'm not going after anyone for their religion or I'm going after people for their beliefs that are mistaken. But I don't even think they're honoring their own Catholic beliefs in some sense, because you should have every right to defend your culture and your religion and your way of life. But for some reason, you don't want us to do that in the United States. That seems quite bizarre. Here is Tom Homan, who's obviously in charge of our deportations and cleaning up our border, responding to some of those bishops.
This week, the Catholic bishops sent out a special message. They said they get that countries can secure their borders, but they don't like these mass deportations.
So according to them, the message we should send to the whole world is that if you cross the border illegally, which is a crime, don't worry about it. If you get ordered removed by a federal judge after due process, don't worry about it, because there shouldn't be mass deportations. If that's the message we send to the whole world, people are still going to put themselves in harm's way to come to the greatest nation on earth. They're going to spend their life savings to give it to a criminal cartel. And we saw during the Biden administration, when there was no immigration enforcement, over 4,000 aliens died making that journey, historic record. 250,000 Americans died from fentanyl, historic record. Secure borders saves lives. And I wish the Catholic Church would understand that. We have the right to secure our borders like they have the right to secure their facility. You can't enter their facility without getting arrested. Matter of fact, the penalties for entering their facilities are much worse than ours. So, we're going to force the law, and by doing that, we're saving a lot of lives. Secure border saves lives. And one of the reasons no one talks about why we have the most secure border in the history of this nation is because exactly what ICE is doing. ICE is sending a message to the whole world: don't give your life savings to come to the country, because you're not going to be released. You're not going to cross the border illegally. You're going to be prosecuted. So the Catholic Church is wrong. I'm sorry. I'm a lifelong Catholic. I'm saying it as not only at borders, I'll say it as a Catholic. I think they need to spend time fixing the Catholic Church, in my opinion.
On H-1B.
Okay, so that's his opinion as a Catholic. And obviously, we don't have to get into the long litany of things that have happened throughout the Catholic Church. And hopefully most of that sordid history has been cleaned up. But why they would be attacking a sovereign nation from their sovereign walls of the Vatican seems, I would say, less than authentic. What Americans might want to focus on is that we do have a problem. We do have a problem with a strain of religion that is growing rapidly in the United States. Check this out from the Unwokeness account on Twitter. These are 48 mosques that have now opened in Dallas. Dallas. You are just seeing Dallas right there. 48 mosques have now opened, new mosques, in the last 2 years in Dallas. This is to the backdrop of that epic city that we've covered, which was going to be basically a Sharia compliant city. We might want to start thinking about that. And that is not to be bigoted towards anybody, but if there is a religion that is based in a set of ideas that is antithetical to the foundation of the United States, which is based in individual freedom and liberty, then we might want to think about that.
He's absolutely right, folks. Okay, let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from the Rubin Report. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and see what X22 Report has to say regarding these Democrats are panicking, caught in trap. Trump begins to separate the players before the midterms. Alrighty, that sounds very interesting. Let's see. X22 always has interesting stuff. That's why I like to share him and Wendy Bell, in fact. So let's see what this is all about.
Or just click the link in the description. Let's get into the economic collapse, political and geopolitical news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, big tech fake news, the puppet masters, you can see that these are panicking because what they thought was going to happen with the Epstein files is not happening. And you can see that basically Trump trapped them in all this. They're caught in a trap and they don't know what to do. And again, Trump has now played them. They kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And this is what Trump does. He leads them in and says, no, 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 we don't want that. No, no, no. All right, you really want it? Okay, you're requesting it? Okay, here you go. Now, here's all the information. And now let's see what turns up here. And actually, this is not going to work the way they think it's going to work out. And actually, this is a complete and utter disaster for the deep state players once again. And you can see that Trump now, what he is doing right now, he is now separating the players for the midterms. And I don't believe it's just for the midterms. I do believe Trump now is actually preparing everything, yes, for the midterms, but also for the presidential elections. He's thinking way, way ahead. Remember, his entire mission is to do what? It's to take back this country. His entire mission is to make sure we don't have these obstructionists, the rhinos, in position where they're going to stop or try to stop everything that he's trying to do. And he needs to make sure those people that are going to try to come, get in the way of the 28 presidential election, he needs to make sure that he actually outs them right now and people can see who they are and who they truly are. So I do believe that's exactly what he's doing right now. And he's prepping the entire thing, just like he's prepping everything. So this way we can have accountability moving forward. And like we've always said from the very, very beginning, we need to look at these judges very, very carefully and closely. And all those people that are screaming and yelling and whining that we need prosecutions, just take a step back for one moment. Take a look at what is going on right now. If you have a judiciary that is corrupt, that is blackmailed, do you really think when Trump and team, they bring them in front of this judge who is corrupt, do you really think they're going to follow the rule of law and actually abide by the law and actually then convict these people? Think about that for a sec. And think about the instructions they will give to the juries. And I do believe what Trump has done right now, he's taken Comey, he's taken Bolton, he's taken Letitia James, and yes, there's going to be many other people. And he's used open and shut cases, simple cases. These aren't the treasonous cases. These are very simple cases, documents that they might have signed, they might have lied to Congress. And he wants to see, let's see what happens when we take these people and we put them in front of these judges. Let's see the lawfare tactics. Let's see what the judges do. And let's see if the judges are following the rule of law, or are they going to use the lawfare tactics to get these people off? And I think we're starting to get the answer, and it's becoming clearer and clearer every single day that no, we cannot have accountability, because when you look at the Comey case, what do you see? You see already that the judge now most likely will let him go, that the case is not going to go forward. And then when you look back in time and you look at all the judges that were going after Trump, they wouldn't even allow Trump to submit certain evidence.
Yeah.
And most of the cases didn't even make sense, especially the one with the evaluation of his real estate, where the bank said, we have no problem whatsoever. We actually gave him an award because he paid off his loans ahead of time. And Trump actually didn't value his properties. The lenders do that. And who was the victim in those cases? There was nobody. So once again, we could see that Trump's plan, where he's checking it out first, is actually working. And they're doing exactly what he thought they were going to do. So what does that mean? How can we have accountability right now? Oh, let's arrest everyone. Let's put them in front of these corrupt judges. Oh, wait, everyone got off. Everyone's angry, pissed off, because no one's thinking right now. We need the House. We need the Senate. The midterms to complete the mission to take back this country are so important. Not just to have accountability, but to actually do other things that Trump needs to be done. If we do not get rid of the central bank system, the loan sharking system, where we the people borrow this currency with interest attached, which breeds corruption, if we do not get rid of this, we're just going to have the same thing all over again. And it will never, ever end. Yes, it might be cleaned up for a very short period of time, but it's not going to last. And I go back to the example, when Trump was in his first term, he wrote incredible executive orders. People were feeling good. Fuel prices were coming down. The economy was chugging along. He was doing a lot of different things. Peace through strength. Got rid of a couple of terrorists from Iran. And all of a sudden, Biden came into the picture. And what happened? Those low energy prices, they went skyrocketing. They went way, way up. Inflation that he had below 2% went where? Went straight up. All the executive orders that Trump put into place, well, they reversed it. The lockdown border and the building of the border wall, that was reversed. So do we really want that once again? No, we don't, because what would be the purpose of all this? Remember, we're fighting to take back the country. Trump's mission is to return the power to the people. That's why he says we have no time right now for these ridiculous hoaxes by the deep state, by the D's. Our mission is to take back the country. Yes, we could spend all our time on all these ridiculous things right now. And if we don't take back the country, who cares? What did we accomplish? We accomplished absolutely nothing. Remember, he's in office for 3 years and a couple of months right now. Yes, he's going to hand this off, but he needs to go as quickly as possible. We need to get everyone on board. We need to take control of the House and the Senate. We need all of this now to take back the country. Remember, this is part of the plan. And we could see that Trump, he says, okay, let's get this over with. You want the Epstein files? Release them all. Release everything. This way, we get it over with. Let's get back to business. Let's get back to taking back the power of this country. Let's give it right back to the people. Yes, the Epstein information that the D's were trying to push, yeah, it's important up to a point because we're not there yet. And remember, this is not about these little tiny issues here and there. This is about taking the power back. And it's much, much deeper. It's much, much wider and much, much more that Trump has to do. It's not just about arresting a couple of people. Yeah, guess what? You arrest Obama right now. You arrest Clinton right now. You arrest Comey right now. Yeah, they're arrested. Great. Keep the central bank in the state that it's in right now, where we're still borrowing currency. What do you think is going to happen later on? You're going to breed corruption again. Yeah, it might take 5, 8, 9, 10 years, maybe even sooner than that, but you're going to be back exactly where you were before. And think about it. If we don't take control of the House and Senate, and we don't codify the executive orders, we don't place voter ID as a law with paper ballots and one-day voting, we don't get rid of mail-in ballots, if we don't get rid of all the illegals, guess what's going to happen? With all the money that they're going to be money laundering, they're going to set up their entire cheating system once again. Yeah, Obama might not be doing it. Hillary Clinton might not be doing it. But believe me, you're going to have takers because it's very easy to corrupt those people that are already criminals. And once again, we will be back to where we are today. And you can see this is what Trump is continually trying to tell everyone. He doesn't have time for all this because he understands the clock is ticking and we must move forward. We must take back control of this country. Remember, this is not business as usual. The country that we've been living in, the way it's been operating, it's about to change big time. It's not going to be, oh, here we are once again with the same uniparty. We're about to change everything. And a lot of people don't understand this, that we're going to do a 180 right now. Because what we've been living in is everything the deep state, the central bankers have set up. That's what we've been living in. Trump is going to end all of that. And the world that you've been living in is about to change for the better. And it's going to be absolutely incredible. And this is why Trump is continually out there saying, listen, we have a lot of work to do. He knows what he needs to do. And with the D's and everyone else and the rhinos trying to bog him down with all this, it's not going to happen. So once again, you could see where we are right now. And Trump is now testing the judiciary, testing everything, because he knows where we have to go with all of this. We'll be discussing a lot more about this a little bit later. But first, let's talk about the illegals, because again, we need to get rid of the illegals. And yes, in 2026, what's going to happen? That one big, beautiful bill, the funding's going to come in, and all those people that want to assist in going after these people, we're going to have hundreds of thousands of people rounding these people up and removing them, which is going to make it much, much more difficult for the deep state players, the D's, to cheat in the midterms.
Yes.
And like we said many, many times before, every step of the way, what Trump is trying to do, he's trying to minimize or mitigate the cheating that they have. Yes, it would be the ultimate to end the filibuster and to basically pass a law that says voter ID, one-day voting, paper ballots only. That is it. That would be incredible. It would shut down everything that they're doing right now. If we don't get that, Trump says, okay, at least we're going to get the Supreme Court ruling one-day voting, which will assist us greatly in reducing the cheating that the deep state, the D's, have been doing for a very long time. If the Supreme Court doesn't rule on this or something happens, Trump says, okay, I'm cleaning up the voter rolls. I got rid of the Social Security numbers. I'm deporting the illegals. I'm going to make it so we can override their cheating system so they can't cheat the way they did before. So every step of the way, Trump is trying to do this. And yes, depending on what happens, it will be safe up to a point. And this is why we need all hands on deck. This is why we need to take it all back now. We need control of the House and Senate. We can't have these obstructionists standing in the way. We need them removed right now. Or guess what? Nothing's going to get done, just like you're seeing today and what you've seen in the past.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there before it goes into something else. But I will share this video in my daily news wrap-up with you, the rest of it. Or if you prefer, you can scroll down in the description box, and the link to this video is right there in the description box. But let me click on the Rumble link here and show you that this video does come from X22 Report. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Alrighty, let's jump back here, and I want to give you some bonus information from Wendy Bell. People seem to like to hear from Wendy. So it's all connected from Wendy Bell. Let's see what she has to say.
Well, welcome back to the Wendy Bell radio program. If there was ever a scapegoat / whistleblower, her name is Tina Peters. Tina Peters, she's an American. She's a grandma. She's a mom. Her son died in a tragic parachuting accident, military, 2017, considered gold star mom, just awful. She was the Mesa County clerk in Colorado during 2020, during the election. And she witnessed some stuff and got completely embroiled in this. Well, she got basically thrown in prison to keep from talking. And she identified problems with the Dominion voting systems in her neighborhood, in her community. And she blew the whistle on that. And what ended up happening was she got basically flipped around and hogtied and accused of trying to help President Trump rig or throw the 2020 election. Look, there's no way anybody with half of a brain in their head thinks Joe Biden won that election. There's just no way. There is no way when you're recording votes for a candidate to lose as the votes are coming in. Lose votes. They don't go down. In no world in election tabulating do votes go down except on election night of 2020. And we watched it with our own eyes. Now, Tina Peters was one of the few voices who stepped forward and said, hey, I see some stuff. She got access to one of the machines, shared some of the information with people, and then she got snarled in this whole election fraud, trying to help Donald Trump overthrow 2020 nonsense, and was basically thrown away like a January 6er. Shh, you're not allowed to talk. We need to put you somewhere where you never will. Welcome to prison, sentenced to like 8 or 9 years. Ridiculous. She's not doing well. Trump moves her out of some lockup into a federal one. So I guess what he said yesterday, and it's pretty big, he drops this truth saying, hey, we need to release Tina Peters. Free Tina Peters. Donald Trump yesterday, a brave and innocent patriot who has been tortured by crooked Colorado politicians, including the big mail-in ballot supporting the governor of the state. Let Tina Peters out of jail right now. She did nothing wrong except catching the Democrats cheat in the election. She's an old woman. She's very sick. If not released, I'm going to take harsh measures. Now, this is interesting. So yesterday on the War Room, like this posts yesterday. Is this yesterday on Steve Bannon's War Room? I don't know. I cannot tell you that definitively. But it's Tina Peters calling from prison, calling to Steve Bannon's show. And she's got some very interesting things to say. She's talking about Colorado Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, who, if I'm not mistaken, fancies herself governor material, and talks about Jenna Griswold making public the Dominion voting machine passwords for 63 of 64 Colorado counties before the 2020 election. Does anybody think that is odd? Listen to this conversation. Tina Peters in prison.
Subpoena Mike Frontera, Dominion's lawyer, but they found a way to not let us have our witnesses. What Jenna did, though, that since at least June, those BIOS passwords, 670 of them, from 63 counties out of the 64 counties in Colorado, have been on the public website for the Secretary of State, which means they were out there for anybody to grab.
Anyway.
She should be locked up, and they should throw away the key and let me loose.
Yeah, we need a prisoner swap.
Yeah, for sure.
So you think that this election in Colorado was definitely compromised because of the leaked passwords?
Oh, always.
Yeah.
I mean, in Mesa County, they were finding fraudulent ballots. They were finding the same person was signing the ballot envelopes, and they brushed it off like it was nothing. As a matter of fact, what Jenna Griswold did with the passwords, she knew while I was going through the trial that was out there and did nothing.
So those passwords were leaked out there during your trial before your sentencing?
They were out there since June, but she knew about it and didn't tell the clerks about it. And now she's apologizing to the clerks. She should apologize to the American people, or at least the people in Colorado. But there were other passwords besides just for Colorado, I've heard for the United States in there for Dominion machines.
So you think some of our other elections in other states could be compromised because of leaked passwords for the Dominion machines?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what's going on with the cartel in Arizona and Michigan.
Whoa. That's what's going on with the cartel in Arizona and Michigan. Wait a minute. It feels like it's all connected. Yeah, because it is all connected. Yes, it is. And that is why the Jeffrey Epstein story is so not a story. Isn't it funny how Dominion came out gangbusters? We're going to sue anybody who even whispers our name. Then Dominion gets bought by somebody and it's kind of repurposed with some name, Liberty. It's all so dirty. It's almost like everything was rigged. And anybody who stepped forward and said anything about it ended up getting accused and thrown in prison. Huh. It feels so weaponized, doesn't it? I mean, like, that's just me. When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, Trump says release the files. Do it now. We're watching the House next on the Wendy Bell radio network.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause it there, and I will play the rest of this video as well in my daily news wrap-up. But folks, it's this is my program. This is my podcast. I share the truth with you. I share information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. All you get there are lies and propaganda. Fake news. That's what you get. I'm trying to give you different perspectives of what's going on out there, about the mainstream media lying, about elections, fraudulent elections. It's amazing. And, I hope you would share this out with other people. But I'm telling you, we need to wake people up, hopefully with my fingers crossed. And please, Lord up above, that we can get a handle on these elections because they are fraudulent. I don't know how. Donald Trump, I know that there were like 50,000 volunteers that were at the polling places to report anything that was kind of shady going on. And even with that, I don't believe that Kamala got as many votes as they say she got. But whatever, we can only hope for the best. I do want to share a little bit of information here with you from Blackout Coffee. I've not tried it, but from what I understand, it's some pretty good stuff. So here's your chance. You get a bonus here.
You all know I don't start my day without two things: standing for what I believe in, and a strong cup of coffee that does the same.
Here's your chance. You get a bonus here.
That's why I drink Blackout Coffee, a 100% American company. You all know I don't start unapologetically patriotic, pro-2A, and anti-woke. They don't just roast incredible coffee, they stand for the very values this country was built on: God, family, and freedom.
Every bag is roasted right here in Florida and shipped straight to your door. No corporate garbage, no virtue signaling. Just real coffee, for real Americans. If you're like me and need to hit the ground running, try their Morning Reaper Medium Roast. It's bold, smooth, and kicks like a mule.
Or if you're into something darker, like Founding Fathers Dark, grab their 1776 blend. It's rich, fearless, and roasted to perfection. Support a company that actually gives a damn about this country. Go to blackoutcoffee.com/rumble and use code RUMBLE for 20% off your first order.
Blackout Coffee. Wake up. Stand up. Never back down.
Okay, here we go. All right, I'm going to go ahead and copy the comments into, or the live chats into this comment here. Make it a permanent part of this video. And remind you folks that these videos that I've shared with you tonight are videos that come directly from the producer's channel, okay? I've got the links to the videos right here in the description box, as well as the links to their particular channels, okay? In other words, if you want it right here, the link to Dave Rubin, the Rubin Report, if you click on that, amazing, it's going to take you to the Rubin Report, just like magic. Now, these videos that I've shared with you are also videos that I've posted on Murtech.com, where I have over 55 no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth videos. The information, again, that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. This is your one-stop shop for no-nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. Now, I'd like to share all of this with you, but I can't because I just don't have the time. But that is why I put together my daily news wrap-up, to give you more information from good sources, information that you can depend on. Let me jump over here and open up my playlist for tonight. As I said, I'm going to share the rest of X22 report. I've got some information from Dr. Steve Turley. Here's Wendy Bell's video that I'm going to share, some information from SGT report. Megan Kelly, Devory Darkins. Man, there's some great stuff here. American Center for Law and Justice. Chicks on the Right. So don't miss this. Go ahead and take a break, because it's going to take me some time to get my Rumble Studio set up and make sure I've got my playlist all set up correctly. Go ahead and grab a cup of coffee and a donut, and or a sandwich and a soft drink or a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30, and we'll get this going. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being with me. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.